I've got a warning to those that are thinking of selling things right now, because this is what I've noticed from my experience of selling quite a lot of gear. It's thousands of pounds worth of gear, and this applies to the majority of retail outlets that buy sort of tech gadgetry and so on. The first thing I noticed is, if you're going to do it, now is the time to do it, or otherwise you're going to see prices drop even further than what they are now. One of the things I've noticed, that when I was there, when I dropped off because I booked it all in, even just between sort of a week or two from when I first checked prices to when I actually finally booked it in and did all that, the prices had already dropped. And then when I went into CEX, for example, and this isn't a criticism of CEX, by the way, they've been really good, but when I was there, it was heaving. And this was on a day when you would assume really it wouldn't be very busy, but it was heaving, not necessarily just with people mooching around the store, but just people coming with things to sell. I spoke to the manager because I dealt with her because I had an awful lot of gear to sell and it was booked in, and she wanted to make sure it was booked in properly and so on. So it was really good. And she said, and this was last week, it was the busiest week that they'd had since she started working there several years ago. They've never bought so much stuff in this last week. And what I've seen is that and I get why they're doing this, but they're reducing prices on what they're offering because they're getting so much more of certain gear in. And also they're being super, super picky at what they're taking in. They won't just necessarily take in anything because they want something they can easily sell and pass on. They don't want to be having it around in a warehouse or on a shelf just gathering dust and not selling, because it's not good for business. And as a result, they were really trying to sort of knock down certain things, and had knocked down certain things because they didn't have the box, or the box wasn't as good a quality as they were expecting, or it was missing like even a simple thing like a USB-C cable, which can be picked up for next to nothing. Just very simple things. So my warning to you is, if you're going to sell anything to any of these stores, and there's plenty of them, not just CEX of course, but make sure that you have the box, because that really makes an enormous difference now. Huge difference. So much so that the price difference, for example, between me having the box for the Index the Valve Index VR and not having the box is £100 difference. £100 difference because I didn't have the box. I found the box and I got the price I wanted. So it's hugely important to have the box. If you have the box, make sure it's clean, make sure that you have all the cables, make sure you tie them up nicely, make sure it's presented to them in a way that it's easy for them to test. The more that you make it easy for them, and you make it easy for them to grade appropriately, without sort of knocking off anything because maybe it's a bit dirty or you couldn't be asked to do the cables properly or anything like that, will affect what you're selling to them. They will find any excuse to knock you the price down because it's in their interest to do so. So yeah, that's my advice. Make sure it's super clean, make sure you tidy up all the cables, have all the cables you can possible. They will accept third-party cables if it's like USB-Cs or power bricks and so on. If it's a power brick, make sure it's a UK power brick or a power brick related to your country that you're selling it in. Yeah, and if you've got the box, make sure it's a clean box, and because that will make an enormous amount of difference. And just make it as easy as possible for them to grade, because otherwise you're going to start to lose money and they'll find any excuse to knock it down. But if you're going to do it now, or otherwise you're going to see prices plummet. And I've seen prices drop enormously just over the last few weeks, and it's understandable. I get why But yeah, if you're going to do it, act now. Act now. Okay, see you in the next video.